All right, my name is Mark Geyer. I'm a designer at Salesforce. I work in the analytics cloud. If you're showing up tonight, this is the meetup invite. Pretty normal meetup invite, except for one thing that I thought was kind of weird. Animation wizard, right? Let's take a moment to talk about this wizard. Wizard, okay? Just to emphasize, this zooms in for about a good minute. And we're going to hold here until it finishes. And we'll just move on. OK, so I'm just trying to think of other instances of me actually being a wizard, because I thought it was kind of weird, right? So here on the left, we have George Hill. It's about his third or fourth year on the Washington Wizards. We have Paul Pierce here on the right. He spent his first 15 years in the NBA on the Boston Celtics. He looks a little bit weird when he's not wearing green, I know. And then you have me, not shown here, but at Paul Pierce's foot. That's me. Yeah. I'm probably about 8 or 9 inches tall, but I got hops, you know. This is me dunking on LeBron James. Okay. So I was trying to think of other instances of me doing any sort of wizard activity. Why would someone call me a wizard? Thought hard, and if you have seen the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, there's a scene that was deleted, right? So we're going to actually replay that scene for you here. So at the hat sorting ceremony, this is about 30-40 minutes into the movie, it's Harry's turn to put on the hat. He puts on the hat's kind of messing with him. The hat wants to put him in Slytherin. He does not want to go into Slytherin. Finally, the hat chooses Gryffindor. Harry's ecstatic. The Gryffindor table is happier than shit. They cut back to Harry at the Gryffindor table. He's looking back at Professor Dumbledore, and Professor Dumbledore gives him a cheers. Okay, and then we cut back to Harry. It's at this moment in time, deleted scene, everyone. The professor was actually cheering not Harry Potter, but in the background, myself. Okay, yeah, true. You know, I speak nothing but truths here tonight. You're welcome, Harry Potter. Next one is Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. Anybody know about this one? Good, first time. Okay, so probably about 50 minutes into the movie, we find Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli looking for Mary and whatever, the Peeper Piper Pizza guy. And Legolas actually senses the White Wizard nearby. Does everybody know what scene this is? Okay. They turn the corner. The White Wizard disables their weapons. They can't believe who they could see. Aragorn is like, no way. Yeah, it's totally Gandalf the White. No way, no way, no way, right? Yes way. So it's actually this moment in time, Blu-ray version only, right? You could take a screenshot of this particular frame, pull it in Photoshop, under Filters, Video, De-interlace. You want to choose odd fields, and when you do that, you actually get this. Okay, so before, after, before, after. Notice some weird things on the sides here, these strings. If you follow the strings up, I'm actually puppeteering Gandalf. Yeah, I remember this day my beard got stuck in the tree a lot. It was super annoying. Anyways, that's enough wizard talk, and comedy comes in threes. So let's talk about 6 tips for meaningful animation. Okay. I will sort of preface this presentation is that it's for everyone. Do we have any designers? Raise the hands. Developers, raise the hands. PMs? PMs. No, I was hoping for like, oh yes, 1. Okay, awesome. I was hoping for a handful, so. And there is no code in here. I'm not showing any code. It's for everyone, right? And if you could code, that's awesome. You definitely know what I'm going to be talking about. And hopefully this will help you know where and when to apply motion. So let's get right into it. First tip is state. What do I mean by state? Well, any interface element that's interactive should have at least 2 of them. What I mean by state is if you have a button and you hover that button, that is a different state. If you press that button, that's a different state. If you tab to that button, and we're talking on the web right now, that is a focus state. So with any given form element, you have at least 4 states. You could define 3 of those. Showing states is a must. And as the designers, we want to show the response to when a user is using your product. You want the system to respond back in some way. It's a feel-good thing. So what comes to mind is Newton's third law. This is not the entire theory, but for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So if a user is taking action on your system should react in a way that should be familiar with the user. So lots of interface elements are Boolean in nature, right? They're true or false. They're there, they're not there. They're open, they're closed. And buttons, checkboxes, everything you would find in forums. Say if something goes wrong, there's alerts, there's modals, there's overlays that modals are underneath or on top of. And motion can help bridge the starting and ending points of these elements. So where the animation starts, if it's not seen, and to when it's seen. At a higher tier, state could also refer to a particular flow. So say going through a particular like onboarding animation or navigating through the app or whatever it is, your product, and making something in a wizard. There's multiple steps. Creating an account, there might be multiple steps, sections per page. That's state. Tip number 2, scale. When you make products, motion should have a consistent flow to it. And when a user is using a product enough, they know a certain thing might appear at a certain moment in time. If that animation takes too long to get there, it can be kind of annoying. So with motion, what can scale exactly? Well, time is an easy one. Duration, delay, specific movements relating to Bezier curves. So there's particular curves that you can do in CSS. There are particular curves in JavaScript that you can't do in CSS. And it's just a unique movement. With transforms, you can present a scale for how you move something. That's what translate is. It's a CSS JavaScript way of moving something with and having it be sort of easy on the browser to help it move. Scaling and rotating. There could be a scale for everything here. And the sooner you make scales for your motion system, the more you use them and the more motion patterns are defined. So let's go through these. So an example of a time scale is, say you have a scale ranging from 0.1 seconds, and that's 100 milliseconds. You may want a delay to be considered fast, and various drop-down menus, etc. Double that speed, 200 milliseconds. You may want a delay to be normal, and button states to have their transitions, link states to have their transitions to maybe a different color. Double that, you may want to have a delay that's also considered slow. And this is also the same timing that you use modals as, alerts, overlays, fades, etc. And the scale could go as deep as you want it to be. This is just an example. So an example of a Bezier curve, or a scale thereof, is this is not a Bezier curve. This is just a linear curve. So say if you're watching a ball going across the screen, and it's just moving at a consistent rate, and that's linear. But say if you have a design, if you want a particular follow-through animation, there can be a scale to that follow-through. So it's still getting from point A to point B, but your scale actually allows to show more follow-through based on what version of that follow-through you want. And so when setting these up, though, You may not use all of these for every type of way you would move something, but it will set up patterns for what you use and a definition for what you will design in the future. So simple scales for translating. This is moving X, Y, Z. Oops, sorry. I'm double mic'd here. I'm like totally weird. Scale, rotate, origin, opacity. These all can have a scale to them. Depending on how you're using them, again, defines your motion system. Personality. The products that you make should have it. It's the voice, visuals, emotion of your product. And it's the amount of polish that should go into products. It should be very high. You know, we as designers, we spend a lot of time in the details, and we want to see that in the product. We may show our designs and prototypes with research candidates, and it's gone over well. And so we want our stuff in the real product. But first, it needs to work, right? So a lot of teams run into this, and this is typically where teams get stuck. So experiment with your emotion in the design process for sure. But before you do that, you have to know what you're building. So you can, like we just talked about in the last tip about scale, you can create a scale system for everything you need to move something. And when it comes down to actually building it, then you can use things how you want. And these will define your motion system and patterns. It's kind of an ongoing process. So some quick examples of movement. A user might be doing something super intensive. The last thing they want to see is some like bouncy animation coming in and just looking weird compared to everything else going on. So you may want to use ease or just to have a smooth effect. You may want to have follow through. This is shooting past the endpoint and then coming back. You may actually want to bounce something in. That might be a part of your motion language. Anticipation. So think of a modal is telling you what to do, or something happened and you need to know about it. If you acknowledge the modal, this would be a place to use anticipation. Overboard. Going overboard, just going too far with it. So say you have a button, and this is just an ordinary button.
Hey, look, a button.
Yeah, but let's not get crazy with it, okay?
Let's get crazy with it.
Oh gosh, okay. No. Yeah. So that happened. And yeah, those wizard parties are crazy. So you guys should get on the Eventbrite for those. Basically, it's super easy to go overboard with animation, especially if you know how to do it in CSS and JavaScript. But the more motion, the better, right? Not really. Sometimes maybe not. Even if the animations you make or various transitions are the best work you've ever made. If there's too much of it going on, you could actually cause your users to have motion sickness. This is like a real thing. They can get nauseated. So again, a little chart, a little animation goes a long way. When you start with an animation, you always want to ask yourself on the very left, do you even need animation? This is a gray area, right? So if you need animation, add a little bit of animation. It's awesome. If you add more animation, that's great. You don't want to get into the batshit crazy category that's on the very right. That actually starts, it's arbitrary, right? You need to ask yourself, you need to have a filter. You need to ask yourself, what is too much? That's totally up to you. And it helps when you test it, right? Show users. So don't do this. What may seem like normal, just a lawnmower is actually a lawnmower that flies. Okay? Don't do this. Don't go overboard. And we're actually going to pause on this until it does a double barrel roll. I'm not joking. I saw this 3 days ago, and my friend that's in the back, he showed this to me. I'm like, he's like, dude, you got to add it. I'm like, yeah, that's going in. So that was in. Tip 5 is emotion, right? The mental state of your users while using your interface. So an example, in the movie industry, everything is planned. Millions of dollars is spent creating scripts, hiring actors, and planning storyboards. And characters of the story are written in such a way to where if you're watching a character and that character is doing something bad and the other characters don't know about it, you know about it, right? And that messes with you. They write scripts to have you feel certain things. So what we do is we build product, and everything is planned, right? It's the same kind of thing. Millions are spent doing roadmaps, research, planning, wizard parties, of course, development. With the elements of interaction, though, we have to provoke certain feelings. And typically, those feelings are positive, right? It would be weird if we did something that invoked sort of a negative on purpose, but obviously we need to support their emotions when using our products. Right, so what does that mean? So there's positives and negatives. These are just examples. So when you create a nice onboarding, right? When users actually get kicked into your product, they know how to use your product from the moment that it opens up. When they create something, edit something, delete something, they get a confirmation that that thing that they just did is totally awesome or totally good. And if the interface is beautiful, it is pleasing to look at. We like looking at nice interfaces. If we all cruise the web and it looked like 1990s, that would not be a cool place to surf. Negatives, if stuff is broken, if stuff is super slow, if there's bad UX, typically this is a negative reaction. So motion, along with great UX design, can help support the feels. So I like to think that this tip is just giving users a nice, big, warm Adventure Time hug. Tip 6, continuous. Don't stop evolving and educating your team about your motion system. When you create a scale and you have patterns, the best thing that you could do is probably create a style guide to relay that. So if somebody is looking at your style guide, they know how to design for your product. So when motion concepts go viral, and you may see this stuff a lot on like CodePen or Code Drops, it's some really cool stuff. You should use it in your next prototype and see if it works for you. You'll be evolving your motion system. You may see something that you didn't see before or didn't think of. But not everything works, right? Not everything works. With animation libraries, some of the things might work, okay? What I would recommend, though, is to be kind of unique and just to build it on your own. And why do this? Because it's easy. It's not as hard as you think. Peace out. So I'm not done yet, but this is actually a part of continuous, is to take a step back, right? If you're feeling kind of beat down, and sometimes in order to know what to do next, you have to stop what you're doing and do something else. Go somewhere, retreat, go on vacation. You might come back with a new mindset and totally jazzed about what you still need to do. So, and the majority of us are designers too, so, and we have all done this. You probably have designed something today, earlier this week. You'll look at it tomorrow or maybe this morning again, and you will see things that you didn't see before. And this happens because we're so focused on the task at hand, at designing something, that we completely miss pretty obvious things. So taking a step back is great. So I am almost done. But before I end, wanted to tell a tiny story. So to come in and to go home, it takes me about 30 minutes on Muni, which is like most people. To help pass this time, I bought a book, you know, like one of those boxy looking things with pages. You guys remember those, right? About Leonardo da Vinci. And this particular outline of the presentation was based around the process of creating a painting. These are some things that he does. When you think about it, the products that we make today are exactly like what he would go through while making a painting in the 14th, 15th century. So just to reiterate, state, he mastered the human figure. So a state of someone who is young to old to the very old, they're in a different state based on like how old they are. And scale, at these different ages, people have different proportions, people have different weights, and personality. When he would do sketches for paintings, certain characters would be sort of introverted in the back versus other people that were just, you know, had their limbs sort of sprawled, just acting out a scene or something. He showed this through his drawings and paintings. Going overboard, he did a lot of notebook sketches on a flying machine. And he would have freaked out if you saw this lawnmower flying, right? Emotion. The first thing that Leonardo would want you to do while looking at a painting is to react to it. So if he's depicting like a war or something like that, he would want you to feel the tragedy. If he did a painting about a couple in love, he would want you to feel that. And continuous. He never stopped observing. He always kept a sketchbook in his side pocket and drew everything he saw, even if he already knew it. So by the time he got to doing the next painting, he would already have studies done about exactly what he needed to draw and then paint. And then plus he kind of looks like a wizard, right? So that adds to it. All right, guys, that's it.
Thanks, Mark. That was awesome. Why don't we do just 5 minutes of questions for Mark real quick while you guys have it fresh on your minds.
So you mentioned motion sickness. I wonder if you found any particular patterns, like when you're doing like user testing, that cause like seizure-inducing, or because like every time I see a slider, like I always have to close my eyes when I hit the right or left. And also like stuff like bounces down, I have to close my eyes when I look at it. But I mean, I don't look at it until it stops. So have you found any like common patterns like this to avoid for people?
Mark, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so is there any common patterns to avoid like seizure-inducing animations with various sliders, maybe like on Netflix or something like that when you pan to the...
I don't necessarily know that, like, I mean, I've never had a seizure from looking at the screen.
Sure.
But
hopefully not.
it's like I have to close my eyes because I just don't have anything.
Yeah, motion could be a lot for people. And I would sort of blame designers on this in a way, because I would say that based on whatever your product is for, say like Netflix, right? Netflix is movies. Movies is meant for everyone. And it doesn't matter like if you're prone to seizures or whatever. So, I mean, there could be other ways to show a slider and various movie thumbnails that isn't so jarring. I actually took a look at Netflix today with paneling, and it would be nice if they had an option to sort of reduce motion. They do that on iOS native, so if you are prone to like not zooming in and out of folders and applications, it just kind of fades. and it's a little bit less obtrusive. So it'd be nice if they had options. So do what you want, but have options to reduce is what I would say. Yes?
So I have a question for the process. So how emotion can be integrated for the product building process, for example, as a motion as a designer. So are you handing over all the success to the developer, or are you just giving them this video of the emotion and everything?
So what are we giving developers to relay our motion? Yeah, so at Salesforce, we do this a lot in core. We're starting to do it in analytics. We may piggyback on a lot of stuff that core has done. But we have a set of design properties, and these design properties are style guide driven. So that this is what makes our style guide sort of live, is that when we make a change in our style guide, it also changes the same variables that they use in production. Potentially. So how we relay various things about motion is through our style guide. And it sort of needs to be in a internal, is my mic going out? Yeah, it's kind of weird. So yeah, it needs to be internal because yeah, you're still working on it. And if your style guide's public, it eventually will be in a certain release or whatever. But through a style guide that's internal but public internal would be my guess. The specs that you hand over could be a prototype, and the prototype could show the developer exactly what it needs to do and how it needs to move and react. Oh, nice. I'll just turn this guy off. Hello? Awesome. Yeah, so that's how I do it. Yes. Sorry, we'll go over here.
Do you have to, or do you know anything about motion with regards to accessibility? Whether there's any sort of guidelines?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's something that, oh, sorry. Do you know anything about accessibility and motion? Is that correct? No. But it would be some very interesting research use cases to explore. So we should actually do that at Salesforce. There was something over here. Yes?
What kind of verification have you guys done on the impact that motion has on user experience? Like what kind of research has been done behind it? Like eye tracking, what really kind of
So what kind of research has been done on motion to help the UX in general? Yeah. So I think designers have a lot to do with that. They definitely have, being a designer, you design like certain states of a feature of a product. And there might be certain interactions that a user does that leads them to these different steps. And to alleviate just the randomness of things disappearing and appearing, we probably started with fades, just to fade stuff in and look a little bit more elegant. And then we got into doing 2D animation, which is probably like, X and Y. And then now we are messing with Z and scaling. And there's a lot of tools out there to do that. I don't know of any resources to really call out explicitly, but I found that it does help UX. When moving something across the screen, if it needs to go there or have a certain elegance to it, it can add to the beauty of the interface itself. So just the sheer making it pretty inherently wants users to use it. So that's what I would say. Sorry, I didn't answer it directly, but yes, here.
What are your favorite emotions to design for, and how do you account for that?
So favorite emotions to design for, and how do I account for it? So definitely you want to, it's different per product, right? So if you're...
For you in Salesforce products?
Yeah, so for Salesforce, it's a little bit more reserved. Different parts of the product have a sort of a productivity layer to it. So we don't want to get too in the face of like a salesperson when they don't really care about animation. They just want to make the dollar. So all of our animation is it's pretty smooth and fast, and it's not at all in your face, but generally it's meant to not be in the way. Sort of like
making money smooth and fast.
yeah, exactly. So the way I would say it is that what's going to drive a user to use something is definitely the content. They're not there to look at your sweet animations, right? So like if content is, I said this in a previous talk, but if content is Batman, then animation is Robin. It's like a secondary thing. So it shouldn't be the main star. It shouldn't ever be Batman, basically.
So what are some favorite animations that aren't Salesforce animations?
Well, of mine, or maybe things that I like. Yeah, when it comes to like native iOS, I guess what I'm touching on my phone right now a lot is like Swarm. I do like Foursquare. I like everything they're doing. Facebook is great if you ever cruise Facebook on your iOS, like Apple device or iPhone, and turn off the mute switch, and you refresh the page and click around, turn up your volume. They've actually added a lot of sound effects. Motion and sound effects kind of go hand in hand. It's kind of like when an anvil drops on Wile E. Coyote, you want it to go ding, and the sound sort of amplifies the motion. So it might be annoying, and if it's annoying, then you know, keep your phone muted. But yeah.
Do you ever have a situation where you have to refactor the design once you go into production because the GPU or the hardware or user feedback says this animation just won't work in this kind of an environment? You know, it just looks too laggy, performs differently from the development platform than when you actually put it on the hardware.
Yeah, so we define or redefine motion based on technical limitations? Yeah, so what I mentioned, I believe it was in the scale tip, which is tip 2, is I label transforms. So transforms are known to be sort of easy on the GPU. And so when you translate something, you could move it in 3D space, X, Y, and Z, coming at you. And you could also scale and rotate and skew and do matrix 3D. You could do some crazy shit with like transforms. So, and it's all easy on the GPU. So we use that at Salesforce. We don't have any problems. For older browsers that don't support it, they just don't have animations. Back here.
Do you have like some baseline standards that you go to, like so I guess timing-wise when you're starting animations? So you like a modal or a dialog box, do you have some baseline timing and curve that you like to initially start with before you start with this turnout?
Absolutely, yeah. So I spoke at BlendConf last year. That's a designer conference in Charlotte, North Carolina. I went over like the 12 like basics of animation, and that's like anticipation and follow through and staging and arcs, and it's all the go-to sort of 12 animation principles to go to. There's a lot of books on the 12 animation principles, so that's something to check out if you're interested in like the basics of animation. But being designers, I like to think that we have pretty good judgment, and that if you make an animation and it's just like totally crazy, that you would not do that, and just kind of scale it back. You don't want to get in that that batshit crazy section. So, cool. Back here again. Sorry.
You mentioned modals. Have you found with animation, like any way, basically we're trying to like get rid of all our modals, trying to come up with ways to not have modals, but sort of have some effect. Have you found any like ways to do that, or anything
Yeah.
with that?
So he's trying to get rid of modals. Is there any way of getting rid of modals? Yeah, there is. Probably make a new view altogether. So if you're, I know when I worked at data.com, when I first started at Salesforce, the way we would integrate into Salesforce would be through a modal. And our modal was, I mean, you have never seen a modal if you haven't seen the data.com modal. So, I mean, it was basically a view in a modal, and it was so much stuff that you might as well make a new view out of it. So just making a new page, basically. Sorry.
2 questions. First one, what kind of tools do you use? Do you just go straight into code and like do it yourself, or do you have like other tools that you use? And then also, what's your background? How did you get to doing what you're doing now?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So what tools do I use, and what's my background? Tools. Well, I'll start with the background first. So I went to Art Institute of Phoenix. That's in Phoenix, Arizona. I got a bachelor's in media arts and animation. So that's basically drawing 2D and 3D. It's been a while since I've done 3D, but it actually was kind of unique. I used to work for Pearson Education, doing educational software for kids. I have kids, so like helping them learn sort of felt good to work on that. Doing illustration, that eventually led to doing interface animations in Flash. So for those of you who remember Flash, yeah. Yeah, and then Flash led on to the web because at a certain point, this little thing called the iPhone came out, and they're like, fuck Flash. And so that changed my career. So I started learning web, HTML5, CSS. Oh, designers can do this? These are similar things to Photoshop. So that's how I got into doing web. That sort of leads into tools. So at school, I used a lot of After Effects. So I have like 16 plus years in After Effects. And I've taught a few people here After Effects. We use After Effects for certain prototypes. But also with our prototypes, we also use like React and different. Used to use Angular, now we use React. And for analytics product, our analytics product is in React. So when we do prototypes, it's in React, and we use CSS and Sass. And depending on what prototype you're working on, you might be using Stylus as well. So just a different preprocessor.
Hey guys, we're going to actually take a short break, and then we'll do questions again.